Chapter 1. The 999th time I shared a room with Willow. She was as fervent as ever. The next morning, my body was covered in scratches and kiss marks. Just moving a little made me recall the heat and madness of the night before. The air in the room still simmered with an ambiguous tension. Willow lay against me, her long, slender hand drawing circles on my chest as she carelessly said, "Dress more formally tomorrow and come home with me." I looked up in shock, my voice filled with hope as I asked, "Willow, are you finally ready to go public with our relationship?" Willow raised an eyebrow, glancing at me sideways as she asked, "Go public? Tomorrow I'm going home for an arranged marriage meeting. You're coming to liven up the atmosphere. Make sure the guy doesn't feel uncomfortable." Each word hit my ears like a thunderclap. My heart nearly stopped. I felt my mind go blank. Stunned, I asked, "You're having an arranged marriage? Then what are we?" Willow had already gotten dressed and was putting on her skirt. She lazily glanced at me and said, "Us. We're just partners, meal partners, gaming partners, and of course, bed partners to relieve our physical desires." A cold chill crept over me, and the color drained from my face. My lips trembled. Seeing my expression, Willow's smile slowly faded as she leaned in and asked, "Wait, George, you didn't think that all these years we were in a romantic relationship, did you?" Her tone, filled with a hint of amusement, cut through my heart like a sharp blade. I fought to suppress my emotions and said softly, "Of course not. I'll go take a shower." I staggered towards the bathroom. As the door closed, I felt all my strength leave me, and I collapsed to the floor. Her words still echoed in my ears, and I looked at the countless scratch marks Willow had left on my body. Tears streamed down my face. We had known each other for more than 20 years, grew up together, drank the same milk, read the same comics. Even when we were 18, we had a drunken night together. Once, there was a second time, then a third. At night, our bodies were perfectly in sync, and during the day, we did everything a couple would do, holding hands and strolling in the crowd, kissing at the new year and promising to stay together, making long phone calls every day to keep the spark alive. I always thought we were already a couple, just hadn't made it public, but now Willow tells me we're not. I leaned against the door, lost in the past, as if there was a lump of cotton in my chest making it hard to breathe. I don't know how long it took before I could pull myself together. Willow, already changed, was sitting on the sofa, talking on the phone. She said, "There will be a lot of people tomorrow. The private room at the restaurant needs to be bigger. He has a light taste. No spicy food. I'm craving cake. Black Forest. Also, prepare a dozen or so evening dresses for me to choose from when I get back. All in black. Makoto only likes that color." At the mention of this name, my heart jolted. I couldn't help but glance over and saw the sweet smile on Willow's face. Makoto. Her arranged marriage partner is Makoto. I felt my expression darken. If it's Makoto, then I understand why she's so happy. Back in high school, Willow had a crush on Makoto. She used to whisper his name in my ear a dozen times a day. But before she could confess, Makoto went abroad. Since then, she never mentioned him again. Later, after that one reckless night, we became closer and closer, and I thought she had long gotten over Makoto. I never imagined that the person she had never mentioned, the one she had never forgotten, was still in her heart. The pain from the anger that had just subsided came rushing back. It hurt so much I couldn't hold my phone. With a thud, Willow heard the noise and looked back, asking with a teasing smile, "Done showering? You're checking out later. Don't forget to pay the room fee." She grabbed her coat and stood up to leave. Just before stepping out, she turned back to glance at me with a half smile. She said, "George, I've always treated you like a friend. Don't show me the dead expression in the future, or I'll think you have some ulterior motive. I know you like the back of my hand. One look from me and you know what I'm thinking. Don't you think it's too boring? If we were really together, it would feel like life had come to an end." Her footsteps faded, but her words kept echoing in my heart. I sat on the cold bed, then laughed bitterly, tears streaming down my face. All these years, this is how Willow had seen me. I stayed up until late at night, then went downstairs to check out. It was pouring rain outside, but I walked through it as if I couldn't feel it. In a daze as I returned home, seeing me drenched, my parents quickly brought me a dry towel, their voices full of concern. "Such heavy rain. Why didn't you take a cab?" I looked at them numbly, my eyes empty, my voice hoarse. I said, "Dad, Mom, with the changes in the company, haven't you always wanted to immigrate? I've thought it through. Let's move abroad and never come back." After months of persuasion, they were finally relieved to hear me agree. They asked in surprise, "You've really thought it through? Did you break up with your girlfriend?" Remembering Willow's words, my heart ached, and I bitterly shook my head. "I don't have a girlfriend. Never did. I lied to you so you wouldn't pressure me about marriage." Whether or not it was true, my parents were still happy. They quickly began preparing immigration documents and urged me to pack my bags. I nodded, went back to my room, and threw away everything related to Willow. Dozens of thick photo albums I had carefully kept for years, the watches she had given me, clothes, handmade statues, all of it went straight into the trash. Master, these are such good things, don't you want them? Seeing the maid's look of regret, I gently nodded, my voice faint. I don't want them. Not just the things, but this relationship, and Willow herself. I didn't want them anymore. Chapter 2. The next day, I was woken up by messages from Willow. She sent dozens of messages asking when I would come over. A bitter feeling welled up in my chest. Willow, do you even realize how cruel you are? I trembled as I typed a reply. I'm not feeling well today. I won't be coming. Not long after, my parents knocked on my door. George, even if you're mad at Willow, don't pick now to sulk. Hurry up and change. Go to Willow's house. You don't know how much she's counting on this arranged meeting. She's like that Ito boy from the Ito family for years. When she heard he was back in the country, she immediately had your dad step in to make the connection. Yeah, that Ito boy studied piano with me for a while. I personally helped set up this meeting. From the gifts to the dinner, it's all very formal. She asked you to come to liven up the atmosphere. With someone her age there, the Ito boy won't feel awkward. Willow's serious this time, and with how close you two are, how can you not help her? Willow, seeing that I wasn't going, even had her parents call me. Listening to their earnest pleas, I had no choice but to swallow the bitterness and get ready. The two families lived close by, and 10 minutes later, I was standing at the Liu family's door, opening the shoe cabinet. It was empty, and the dark blue slippers were nowhere to be found. I searched up and down, finally finding the slippers in the trash outside. Along with the slippers, there was a water cup, toothbrush, towel, pajamas. All of them belonged to me. Mr. Wong. These were all left by the young lady. Please use shoe covers. I stared at the trash bin in silence for a long while. Because of the long-standing relationship between the Wong and Liu families, Liu's father visited frequently, often staying over. Willow had specifically prepared a bedroom for me, buying a lot of daily necessities, all in my favorite colors. She always said that the Liu family was like my home and told me not to be polite. We had kept our relationship a secret from both families, hugging and kissing at the door, holding hands under the table, and sharing intimate moments in the study. Now that Makoto had arrived, she was afraid her longtime crush might misunderstand. So, she had thrown out everything related to me. I took a long time to collect myself before putting on the shoe covers. As soon as I entered the door, I saw Willow sitting on the sofa, happily peeling fruit for Makoto. They were chatting and laughing. Willow wore a custom satin evening gown, her hair meticulously styled, her body emitting a fragrance, exuding an aura of aloofness, like a flower that couldn't be touched. Back in school, I often heard boys say she was so beautiful that even if she wore a burlap sack, she'd still look good. If she dressed up, she'd put the celebrities in the entertainment industry to shame. But Willow had always been carefree and disheveled, wearing t-shirts and shirts, never bothering with makeup. I didn't realize that, in front of the person she liked, she would put on such a display, like a peacock spreading its feathers. The woman I had been tangled up with in bed just yesterday was now acting as though she didn't know me, glancing at me once before looking away, focusing on Makoto instead. They talked about hobbies, weather, work, jewelry brands, childhood memories, and school days. As I watched Willow eagerly continue the conversation, my gaze dropped to the floor in self-mockery. So, when she liked someone, she could be this proactive. Funny how it worked out in high school. You were a year ahead of me, and though we weren't in the same building, we kept running into each other. Seems like fate. When I heard Makoto laugh and bring up the past, I glanced at Willow's flushed ears and silently laughed. Fate. It was all arranged by Willow. Every so-called chance encounter. Back then, I followed her around, watching her go to great lengths for the one she liked, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. Later, when Makoto went abroad, I thought he had finally fulfilled his wish, but now, it seemed that it was Willow who had gotten what she wanted. Lost in thought, I suddenly heard my name. I heard in high school that you and your childhood friend were very close. That must be Mr. Wong, right? I froze for a moment, and when I looked up, I saw Makoto's probing gaze. Before he could speak, I heard Liu Dad and Liu Mom cheerfully chime in. Yes, they're very close. Always together since they were little. Practically grew up inseparable. We were even thinking of making an arranged marriage for them. Halfway through, Willow's face darkened, and she immediately cut them off. Mom, Dad, don't say that. I'd never liked George that way. I lowered my gaze, hiding my disappointment, and forced a smile. Neither would I. No matter who I'm with, I wouldn't be with Willow. At my words, Willow's expression froze for a moment before quickly returning to normal. She casually threw her arm around my shoulder, her face indifferent. That's right, we're just friends, after all. For a moment, the atmosphere in the living room lightened. I laughed along, but in the back of my mind, I could hear Willow's quiet, Relieved, thanks. Not bad. You helped me cover up. Thanks. I said nothing but subtly stepped away from her, creating distance. Cover up? No. Everything I said was the truth. Chapter 3. As evening approached, the Liu family had arranged a car to take us to the restaurant. The three young people were in one car together. Along the way, Willow, sitting in the middle, was incredibly attentive to Makoto. She adjusted the air conditioning, offered a blanket, handed him water, and peeled fruit for him. On the left, I silently turned my face toward the window, watching the passing scenery, as I observed the two of them deep in conversation. Just halfway through the journey, a torrential rain began to pour from the sky. The road became dim, and the car in front of us turned on its high beams. The driver of our car was momentarily blinded by the lights and, unable to make the turn, crashed straight into the guardrail. In the instant of danger, Willow instinctively threw herself into Makoto's arms. Bang! The car's window shattered, and I was slammed against the side, my body drenched in blood. A sharp pain spread throughout my body, and I felt as though I might fall apart. In the blur of consciousness, I saw the right side door open. Willow, in a panic, pulled Makoto out of the car, contacting the hospital while gently comforting him. It was as if she had completely forgotten about the other person in the car, completely ignoring me. When the ambulance arrived, the doctors advised that the more seriously injured person should be treated first. But between the bleeding mess that was me and Makoto, who looked pale with fear, Willow hesitated for only a few seconds before choosing to take Makoto to the hospital first. Watching the car fade into the distance, my focus slowly blurred, and I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. Willow, oh Willow. More than 20 years of friendship, and yet it all pales in comparison to the way he looks at you. My eyelids grew heavier, and the relentless pain torturing me seemed to dissipate in a cloud of nothingness. I never waited for the next ambulance. Darkness overtook me, and I lost consciousness. I don't know how much time had passed, but I suddenly heard a commotion. When I opened my eyes, I saw my mom, her hand on her chest, full of concern and relief. Thank God, George, you're finally awake. The ambulance got here just in time, otherwise you'd have bled out, and the hospital's blood bank wouldn't have had enough. How is it that Makoto only scratched his hand, but you got so seriously hurt? My dad also breathed a sigh of relief, took a sip from a cup of water, and said, well, of course, it's because Willow protected him. True friendship shows in times of danger. That guy was so touched. I just visited next door, and Willow was feeding him porridge. Just looking at the way they gazed at each other, I'd say they're practically a couple by now. I silently listened until their gossiping was over, and then, with a hoarse voice, I spoke up. How long was I out? Has the immigration paperwork been done? My parents replied, you've been asleep for 2 days. You really scared us. As for the paperwork, don't worry about it. It'll be ready in a little over 20 days. Just focus on healing. Hearing that it was less than a month, a sense of relief and freedom bloomed in my chest. In the following days, I overheard the nurses talking about all the things Willow was doing for Makoto. She stayed by his bedside day and night, worrying for him whenever she heard him cough, running to get hot water from the nurse. She personally tested the temperature of all his medications, prepared candied fruits, afraid he'd suffer, fearing he'd get bored in the hospital room. She went out of her way to bring in all kinds of toys to cheer him up. I quietly listened without saying a word. One day, when the nurse was wheeling me to a checkup, I heard a commotion in the hallway. Passing by the next room, I caught a glimpse of Willow, holding a huge bouquet of roses, confessing to Makoto, Makoto, I've been in love with you since high school. Those so-called coincidences were actually me trying to get close to you on purpose. I remember all your likes. I know your dreams. Back then, I didn't get the chance to confess, but now, would you give me a chance? Listening to her nervous and hopeful tone, I couldn't help but think back to the month before Makoto went abroad, when Willow had already been preparing for this confession. Though they missed it back then, it was only a few years later that it finally came to pass. When Makoto said, I do, I chuckled softly, walking toward the examination room. As I turned, the crowd that had gathered erupted in applause. Willow, hearing the applause, turned around and saw me, my lonely and desolate figure. Her smile froze, and a strange feeling arose in her heart, but that discomfort lasted only a moment before being quickly drowned by the wave of joy. She reached out, confidently, and embraced Makoto in her arms. Chapter 4. That night, I opened the ticket booking app and searched for direct flights from City A to Spain. Just as I finished paying for the ticket, Willow walked in with Makoto. She smiled and said, George, I have good news for you. Makoto has agreed to be with me. How's that for a sister? I'm the first to tell you. Looking at their hands tightly clasped together, I nodded slightly, my tone indifferent. Congratulations. Makoto's eyes were full of happiness as he shyly smiled and said, thank you for your blessing. I heard from Aunt Wang that your injuries were serious. Are you feeling better? I brought some fish soup for you. Please drink some. He spoke while urging Willow to hurry and serve the soup, watching her obediently follow his instructions. I paused for a moment before responding. Thank you, but I don't need the fish soup. As soon as I said that, Willow's face instantly froze, her expression turning cold as she looked at him with dissatisfaction. This is fish soup Makoto made with his own hands. I was originally reluctant to give it to you. It's because Makoto cares about your injury that I reluctantly agreed to bring it to you. How can you be so ungrateful? As she spoke, she poured a bowl of soup and shoved it into my hands, insisting that I drink it immediately. I tried to explain, but she pressed down on my wrist, forcing me to hold the bowl. In the struggle, the bowl tipped over, and the hot soup spilled all over my wound. Ah! The pain made cold sweat appear on my forehead, my face contorting in agony as it turned pale like paper. Makoto was startled, and, feeling guilty, reached for a tissue to help clean up. Willow, afraid he might burn himself, quickly shielded him behind her. Makoto, this isn't your fault. He's always been tough. This is nothing. Don't blame yourself. I held the tissue with trembling hands, my chest tightening. In the next moment, my dad rushed in. Seeing my wound starting to bleed again, he quickly called for the nurse. My mom, feeling heartbroken, hurriedly explained to Makoto while putting away the fish soup. Makoto, George is allergic to seafood. He can't drink fish soup. We really appreciate your kind gesture. Thank you. Willow stood frozen, her face becoming unnatural. Why didn't you say something earlier? Looking at the blood-stained bandage, a wave of bitterness rose in my heart. She used to remember all my food allergies. Whenever we went out to eat, she would carefully remind the waiter to avoid seafood, onions, and cilantro. But now, with Makoto in her heart and eyes, she didn't remember these little details. A person's heart has only so much space. It can only fit one person, the one she loved most, the only one. I remained silent for a long while before forcing a smile and replying. You never gave me a chance to speak. The room fell into a heavy silence. Makoto, filled with guilt, was almost on the verge of tears. Willow, distressed by his sadness, didn't say anything. She just took him and left. Because of the infection in my wound, I stayed in the hospital for another 3 days before I was discharged. The time for the immigration process grew closer, and the Wang family was busy packing up. My parents, unable to manage everything, prepared a generous gift and asked me to visit the Liu family. As soon as I entered the door, Mr. and Mrs. Liu immediately grabbed my hands and apologized profusely. George, we're so sorry. After all these years of friendship between you and Willow, she only protected Makoto in the car accident, ignoring you completely, causing you to get seriously injured. We feel so guilty. We'll make sure she apologizes to you. I shook my head and gently reassured them. Mr. and Mrs. Liu, it's fine. Ito is Willow's boyfriend. It's only natural she would care for him. I'm fine. Nothing major happened. Please don't worry about it. Seeing that I wasn't upset, Mr. and Mrs. Liu finally relaxed. After a brief chat, I brought up the main matter and told them about the Wang family's immigration plans. The news took Mr. and Mrs. Liu by surprise, and they looked shocked. Is it really happening so suddenly? We've been preparing for this since 6 months ago due to a company restructuring, but it's only just been confirmed. My parents asked me to let you know personally. After hearing about their old friend's departure, Mr. and Mrs. Liu were saddened, their tone filled with reluctance. Will you come back again? I smiled faintly, and my voice sounded especially clear in the quiet living room. Once we leave, we won't be coming back. At that moment, Willow, who had just returned, pushed open the door and looked at us with a frown. Who's not coming back? Chapter 5. As soon as Mr. and Mrs. Liu opened their mouths, I quickly answered for them. No one. You heard wrong. The two elders looked at me in surprise. Willow didn't notice their strange looks and pulled me to the car. Since you're here, it should be done. Right. Come with me to a place. The two of us were silent all the way. When the car stopped, I realized she had brought me to a luxury store. She asked the staff to bring out a bunch of clothes, shoes, and bags, asking me to try them on one by one. I furrowed my brows, confused. What's the point of trying these on? Willow pushed me toward the fitting room, her tone firm. Just try them on. Before I could refuse, the staff had already closed the door and started opening boxes. After trying on one set, the staff took a photo, and I was pushed into another fitting room. Over and over, again and again, I tried on more than 100 outfits, exhausting myself, my feet bloodied by the shoes. Finally, unable to take it anymore, I shoved the staff away, walked over to Willow, and said in a low voice, I don't need you to buy these things to make up for it. But she replied, except for that wine-red suit. Pack everything else up and send it to Makoto at the Shangyun Mountain Villa. Her words stuck in my throat. I watched as she swiped her card briskly, my voice hoarse. You had me try these things on to give them to your boyfriend. Willow casually nodded, a faint smile at the corner of her lips. Yeah, I wanted to buy something for my boyfriend, but I wasn't sure what he'd like. Since you and he have similar builds, I thought you'd make a perfect model. After this, we'll go upstairs to the 4S store, the watch shop, and the men's store. You can help me try everything: food, drinks, products, everything for Makoto. I have to pick the best for him. Hearing her plan without consulting me, I couldn't control the anger bubbling up inside me anymore. Willow, I'm not your tool to please your boyfriend. Willow had never seen me lose my temper like this. She stared at me in shock and saw the redness in my eyes. I continued, do you know, I never treated you as just a sidekick. Every hug, kiss, even the time we spent together in bed, it was all serious. You don't have to like me, but you can't treat me like this. My voice cracked as I spoke, trembling with emotion. Willow froze, her mind swirling with mixed feelings. She wanted to explain, but I had already turned and walked away. Watching my figure disappear into the crowd, Willow's eyes flickered. The next second, she returned to her usual demeanor. Back home, I took out my suitcase and began packing. At the dinner table, I occasionally overheard my parents talking about Willow. I heard Willow rented out Universal Studios for 3 days to celebrate Makoto's birthday. The roses were airlifted from Europe. She really put a lot of thought into it. The other day, she even took him back to the old house to meet old Lou. She personally paid for some antiques that were supposedly for Makoto. Old Lou was so happy. He kept praising him. Whenever Lou's family came up, I stayed silent. Though there was the occasional ripple of emotion in my heart, there was no longer any pain. I blocked out everything unrelated, rejecting all invitations to gatherings or meals that involved Willow. A few nights later, Willow got drunk and pretended as if nothing happened. She sent me a message asking me to pick her up, but I didn't go. People in our circle sometimes discussed this matter when they were drunk, full of curiosity. Willow, where's that friend of yours? She's not with you recently. Willow didn't care. Her tone was dismissive as she casually responded, she's just sulking. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine in a while. But after some time passed, I still didn't hear anything from her. Finally, she stopped replying altogether. The day before Willow's birthday, she couldn't hold back anymore and sent me an electronic invitation. This time, I finally replied. There were only a few words. I'm not going. Chapter 6. The next morning, I went downstairs and saw Willow. She was sitting on the sofa with a dark expression on her face, her tone cold and hard. George. I could tell from her voice that she was in a bad mood. However, I had no intention of trying to appease her, and my attitude wasn't exactly warm. Good morning. I'm about to go out on a date with my girlfriend, so I won't entertain you. Help yourself. Willow's pent-up anger instantly flared up. She abruptly stood up, grabbing my hand with force, her eyes clouded with fury. Where did you get a girlfriend from? I didn't respond, my face showing no fear. The fire inside Willow kept growing, and she unconsciously tightened her grip. Cat, got your tongue. Speak. I tried to pull my hand away from hers, now red from her grip, my tone still cold. Why does it matter to you? You're overstepping. Just as things were about to escalate, my mom came downstairs and quickly pulled us apart. Ah, this child is just sulking. He's too busy right now. How would he have time to get a girlfriend? If he were to date, that'd be something for later. You've known each other since you were little, so what can't you talk about? Stop arguing. With the elders present, we both calmed down a bit and sat down. After my mom left, Willow realized she had gone too far earlier. Trying to compose herself, she thought back to what had just happened and furrowed her brows. Mrs. Wang had just said he was too busy. What happened? Why did she say it would have to wait? Confused, Willow could only ask me, were you lying to me just now? I gave her a glance and sat in the corner. Is there something wrong? Seeing that I had changed the subject, Willow knew I was using reverse psychology. She sighed in relief and then shifted to the main topic. Why didn't you come to my birthday? I replied, busy. No time. Seeing my cold demeanor, Willow's anger flared up again, and her voice unintentionally rose. What's so important that it could be more important than my birthday? In the past, weren't you the one most eager to celebrate it with me? I took a sip of water, my voice still calm and flat. Things have changed. You already have a boyfriend now. You should be saying this to Makoto, not to me, an outsider. For some reason, when she heard the word outsider, Willow felt uncomfortable. She crossed her legs and intertwined her hands. I don't care. You must come this year. Do you remember the 3 wishes you promised me a few years ago? The first was to knit me a scarf. The second was to climb Snow Mountain with me. And now that both have been fulfilled, I want to use my third wish. You have to come to my birthday. This time, I didn't snap back, and I lowered my head. My silence frustrated Willow, and her voice grew colder. Have you forgotten why you agreed to these 3 wishes in the first place? Of course, I remembered. 3 years ago, when we went to the beach, the tide came in, and I got a cramp in my leg and was swept into the deep sea. It was Willow who threw herself into the water, disregarding her own safety, and saved me from drowning. Though she almost died from exhaustion herself, I nearly cried unconscious at her hospital bed, even considering suicide. When she woke up, she gently wiped away my tears with a soft tone. "You're crying so much. Anyone who didn't know would think I had died. I'm worried about you, and you're saying such unlucky things." In my anger, I pinched her cheek, and she begged for mercy while comforting me. All right, if you really care about me, just fulfill the 3 wishes." Remembering that time, I fell silent again. The room was quiet for a long time before I finally replied, "Okay." After the 3rd wish is fulfilled, just then, the phone rang. Willow answered the phone while standing up and walking towards the door. "Fine, you agreed. So tomorrow, you must come." Watching her disappear through the door, I managed to finish my sentence. We shouldn't contact each other anymore. Chapter 7. Halfway through the birthday party, Willow and Makoto announced their wedding date. That's when I realized that not only was it Willow's birthday today, but it was also their engagement party. The room erupted in thunderous applause, and everyone showered them with blessings. I sat alone in the corner, watching them kiss each other, their faces full of happiness, yet I felt no emotion. When it was time for the toasts, Makoto walked over, arm in arm with Willow, a smile on his face as he raised his glass. "Mr. Wong, you and Willow are so close. Since we're getting married, would you be willing to be my best man?" "Sorry, I have something else that day. I won't be able to attend the wedding." His straightforward rejection made Willow's face instantly change. She shot him a cold glance, her tone becoming stiff. "It doesn't matter whether he comes or not, as long as the gift is delivered." I nodded lightly and spoke in a gentle voice. "Don't worry, given our relationship, I'll definitely send a big red envelope." My tone was sincere, as if I were truly wishing them happiness. Thinking back to the things I had overheard in the store a few days ago, a complex emotion flashed in Willow's eyes. Just then, the cheerful sounds of a piano began to play. She didn't know what to say and, holding Makoto's hand, they walked into the dance floor. The spotlight followed their elegant movements, their figures floating gracefully in the room like 2 butterflies. Seeing their loving interaction, the guests surrounding them couldn't help but express their admiration and envy. What a perfect match. A talented man and a beautiful woman. But isn't it a bit hasty to get engaged after only knowing each other for a little over a month? You don't understand. Miss Liu has liked Mr. Ito for many years. It took her a long time to win his heart. So of course, she wants to get engaged and make it official as soon as possible. I leaned back on the sofa, quietly watching, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts. It was I who had taught Willow how to dance the waltz. Back then, we had no rhythm, and she kept stepping on my feet in her high heels. Usually so impatient, she wasn't discouraged at all and would mischievously lean in and whisper in my ear, "Step on me once, kiss me once." That day, I did teach her how to dance. My feet were bruised and swollen from her stepping on them, and my lips were swollen from her kisses. I thought she liked me too, and in her world, I felt like I was in the boyfriend position. But when Makoto returned, and I saw with my own eyes how she showered him with affection, I finally understood how laughable my thoughts had been. Lost in my feelings, someone suddenly approached me, bending down to invite me to dance. I didn't want to go, but she insisted. Seeing everyone else dancing, I didn't want to kill the mood, so I agreed. The 2 strangers danced surprisingly well together, moving slowly to the soothing and melodious music. The soft scent of the woman had a magical effect, and gradually, I began to relax and immerse myself in the moment. This was the first time Willow saw me smile that night, and her face immediately fell. Her eyes, clearly filled with displeasure, kept darting towards me, causing her to miss several beats. Noticing her distraction, Makoto glanced at her sideways, his eyes flickering. After a change in the music, the dancers in the ballroom switched partners. When I found myself holding Willow's hand again, I paused for a moment and lowered my gaze. Just as we completed a turn, the unexpected happened. The crystal chandelier above us loosened and, with a loud crash, fell. Willow instinctively let go of my hand and rushed to shield Makoto, pulling him out of the danger zone. I managed to stabilize myself in the spot I was left in. The chandelier brushed past my shoulder as it fell, grazing my hand and leaving a long gash. Blood poured out, and my white suit was instantly stained red. The pain spread through my body, and I let out a cry, my face turning as pale as paper. Just a few steps away, Willow was gently comforting Makoto, quickly rushing away. Not once did she glance at me. Chapter 8. When I heard the doctor say there was no damage to the bones, just some external injuries, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. After the wound was bandaged, I went back home. The time for parting was drawing near, and the living room was filled with suitcases of all sizes. He had rested for 2 days and told a few close friends about his plans to emigrate. His friends had organized a farewell party to send him off. The atmosphere at the table was quite sentimental, and everyone was reluctant to see him go, urging him to keep in touch after he moved abroad. It was almost midnight when the party finally broke up. After sending everyone off, I paid the bill and returned to the private room to grab my bag. As I was about to leave, I passed by the next room and overheard a few familiar voices. "Willow, you finally got your Prince Charming. How do you feel?" The door was slightly ajar, and I could clearly hear Willow's smiling voice. I'd probably say, "I'm willing to die right now for him." As soon as she finished speaking, laughter rang out in the room, accompanied by a teasing comment. "So what about that George?" There was a long silence before Willow spoke again, her tone still casual. "Him? Just a booty call. With someone like that, who comes and goes as you please, without any responsibility. Willow, your friends are going to be so envious of you." Laughter erupted again, and Willow raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. "Now that you're engaged to Makoto, what are you going to do about that little childhood friend of yours? Let's part ways amicably. I only have Makoto in my heart, and no one else matters." She said it so firmly that everyone began praising her for being so devoted. But I clenched my fists, my knuckles turning white. I thought I had already gotten over the pain, but hearing this all firsthand, I was still wounded, bleeding inside. All those years of friendship, all the late-night phone calls, hand-holding, kissing, sleeping together, it all came down to one sentence: "You're good in bed." I bit my lip so hard I almost drew blood, trying to suppress the overwhelming bitterness rising in my chest. Slowly, I turned and walked away with heavy steps. It was raining outside, and I lowered my head, stepping into the downpour when someone suddenly blocked my way. Makoto stood there with 4 or 5 others, staring at me without moving. I didn't say a word, just about to flag down a car, but he grabbed me by the arm. He said, "I knew something was off between you two before, but now I've confirmed it. You're so disgusting. Eagerly sleeping with my girlfriend all this time." His voice was filled with resentment, and I felt my face go pale. I was about to explain, but Makoto didn't give me a chance. He looked at me with a mocking expression. "Back then, whatever. But now that Willow and I are engaged, you still want to chase after her. You like being a mistress, don't you?" I gasped, taking a deep breath. "I'm not a mistress, and I didn't come here to find Willow." Before I could finish, Makoto signaled to his men, "Drag him in, and bring in some thugs." A few guys understood, and they grabbed me, shoving me upstairs. "What are you doing?" I was startled, struggling with all my might, but outnumbered and overpowered. I was locked inside the innermost private room. Not long after, a guy entered with 2 rough-looking thugs. Makoto clapped his hands, a cold smirk on his face, and stepped aside to make way. "This guy's been hitting on other people's women all the time. His face and hands are getting on my nerves. Take care of him." As he spoke, he signaled for the door to be closed. In the narrow space, the 2 thugs lunged at me with sneers. I raised my hands, desperately trying to resist, but ultimately, 2 fists couldn't fight 4 hands. One thug twisted my hands behind my back and pushed me down onto the table, while the other raised a knife, aiming to stab my hands. In a surge of panic, I somehow mustered the strength to break free from one of their grips. Grabbing an ashtray, I smashed it onto the thug's head without thinking. There was a loud thud, and the men collapsed to the ground. Taking advantage of the other thug's momentary daze, I grabbed my phone and ran out. I ran into Makoto just as he was about to leave. Seeing me, Makoto's face changed, and he quickly grabbed my hand. "What the hell are you doing out here?" He tried to drag me back, but then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw someone at the corner and suddenly changed his expression. He fell backward, tumbling down the stairs. Just then, Willow came running toward him, her eyes filled with horror as she rushed to embrace Makoto, who had fallen. Seeing the bruises on his body, she glared at me, furious. "George, why did you push Makoto?" Chapter 9. Seeing Willow accuse me without understanding the situation, the pain in my heart reached its peak, but I kept my composure, wanting to explain what had happened. I said, "It was him who sent people to ruin me. He staged the whole thing, including the fall down the stairs. If you don't believe me, go check the private room. The 2 thugs are still there." Hearing this, Makoto panicked, his eyes red as he started to explain. "No, Willow, it was him who called me a mistress, saying I was intruding on your relationship with your childhood friend. That's why he pushed me down the stairs. I didn't do anything. Why is he being so cruel and slandering me like this?" Between the 2 of us, Willow unconditionally believed Makoto. She hugged him tightly, her anger entirely directed at me, her voice like cold frost. "How could Makoto possibly do something like that? You were unreasonable and pushed him down the stairs, and now you have the nerve to turn it around on him. You've been clinging to me since we were kids. I was with you because of the relationship between our families. Since you're so deluded and ungrateful, just get lost." My heart grew cold with those few words. I looked at her, my words firm and resolute. "Fine, I'll do as you wish. I'll sever all ties with you." Her anger flared even more from the cold indifference in my tone. Watching me stumble down the stairs, She, too, wasn't going to let it go, and shouted after me, "Don't ever let me see you again." I knew that we really wouldn't meet again, so I didn't stop. I left without looking back. After a night's rest, I woke up and tore off the last page of the calendar. I was about to head to the garage with my suitcase when I heard my parents call out to me, "George, Mr. Liu and Mrs. Liu have invited our family for one last lunch. Hurry up and put your things down and join us." Though I was reluctant, I knew that whatever had happened between him and Willow had nothing to do with our elders. So after hesitating for a few seconds, I agreed. Fortunately, Willow wasn't home for the lunch today. Mr. and Mrs. Liu kept calling her, trying to get her to come back. They called over a dozen times, but there was no answer. Seeing that the food was on the table, I thought for a moment and softly said, "She's probably with her boyfriend right now. It's just one meal. It's not a big deal if she doesn't eat. Let's not disturb their date." They had to catch a flight, and we really couldn't wait any longer. Mr. and Mrs. Liu finally put down their phones and motioned for everyone to sit down. The meal was filled with nostalgia. As the two families reminisced about the past, I quietly listened, focusing on my food, rarely speaking. After the meal, everyone took a group photo in the yard as a keepsake. At 1 p.m., the Wang family left with their luggage, and Mr. and Mrs. Liu accompanied them to see them off. At the airport, Mr. and Mrs. Liu called Willow several more times. Still, there was no answer. The couple sighed, looking at their old friends with regret, their tone apologetic. "Willow's been busy with the engagement lately. She doesn't know you're moving away. When she comes back and finds the place empty, she's going to be heartbroken." I gently shook my head, my voice calm and indifferent. "That won't happen." The four elders looked at me in surprise. "Why?" The announcement for boarding was just coming through on the intercom. I didn't answer, only politely waved goodbye to Mr. and Mrs. Liu. My parents also took out an envelope from their pockets and handed it to them. "We won't be able to attend the wedding of the two children, but old Liu, please convey our congratulations to them, wishing them a happy marriage." As we said our goodbyes, both families felt a bit emotional. I stood aside alone, opened my phone, and blocked and deleted all of Willow's contact information. After doing that, I put my arm around my parents and waved goodbye to Mr. and Mrs. Liu. We turned and walked toward the boarding gate, and I never looked back. Chapter 10. It was nearly midnight when Willow finally returned. She casually tossed her coat on the sofa and, yawning, looked at the empty living room before asking the maid, "Why did you all call me so many times yesterday?" The maid, who was cleaning, answered respectfully, "Mr. and Mrs. Liu invited the Wang family over for dinner yesterday." Hearing the name Wang, Willow's annoyance flared up again, and she interrupted the maid before she could finish. "Fine. From now on, I don't need to know anything about the Wang family." With that, she headed to her bedroom. When she woke up the next day, it was already noon. As she came downstairs, Mr. and Mrs. Liu were having lunch, and they waved at her. "Willow, could you call George and ask if they've arrived?" She walked to the table and sat down, her expression cold as she refused. "I'm going to check the wedding venue. I don't have time." Mrs. Liu didn't press her, instead making a video call herself. As the call connected, Makoto's call came through at the same time. Willow's face lit up with a gentle smile as she put on her headphones. "Up so early today? I'll come pick you up for breakfast." As Willow said this, she stood up. When she passed by Mrs. Liu, she glanced at her. What she saw was my smiling face, with a background resembling a hotel room. Why wasn't I at home at this hour? A hint of suspicion arose in her heart. She was about to ask when she heard Makoto ordering breakfast. "I'll have crab roe noodles. Come over, and we can go together." She didn't linger any longer, heading for the entrance to change her shoes. Faint voices drifted from the living room. "George, have you arrived? How's the weather there? Where? Did the Wang family go on a trip?" The only possibility Willow could think of was that, but she didn't dwell on it and hurried out the door. For the next month, Willow was busy with wedding preparations, leaving early and returning late every day. Time gradually eased the anger in her heart. Slowly, she also let go of what happened at the bar, thinking that as long as I apologized and groveled a bit, she'd pretend nothing had happened. But I seemed to have vanished from the face of the earth, with no news or trace of me. Willow wasn't concerned at all. After all, no matter where I was, with the close relationship between the Wang and Liu families, the Wang family would surely attend her wedding. When the time came, even if I didn't want to, I'd be forced to show up. She was confident, leisurely, as if she had already imagined the reconciliation scene in her mind, even thinking of the words she would say when offering a way out. But the day before the wedding, when she was driving home and passed by the Wang house, the entire villa was still dark, no lights on. She deliberately stopped the car and rang the doorbell. She waited for a long time, but no one came out. Looking at the dark house, Willow suddenly felt uneasy. She took out her phone and opened our chat window. The most recent message was still the invitation she had sent me on her birthday. Unable to stop herself, she typed a line of text, "Just letting you know, my wedding is tomorrow." Her finger hovered over the send button for a long time. In the end, she didn't press it. Between me and her, she had gotten used to sitting in the dominant position, controlling everything. She didn't want to be the one to give in first, but all through the night, she couldn't calm down, and she didn't sleep well. The next morning, she woke up at around 3 or 4 in the morning to start getting ready. After the wedding ceremony and tea ceremony, she and Makoto went to the wedding venue. She had been to this hotel countless times before, filled with joy about the upcoming realization of her dream. But today, for some reason, as she looked at the beautifully decorated and romantic hall, Willow felt a little dazed. Was she really getting married? Was she really going to marry Makoto? The moment she had once longed for was now so close, yet she no longer felt as certain as she had before. Chapter 11. There were only 10 minutes left before the wedding ceremony began. Willow searched the entire backstage of the hall, but still couldn't find any sign of the Wong family. Her gut told her that Wong uncle, Wong aunt, and I probably wouldn't be attending the wedding. As soon as this thought crossed her mind, Willow's already frantic heart began to race even faster, almost leaping out of her chest. What followed was an overwhelming sense of frustration and unease. She pulled out her phone, repeatedly tapping through her contacts and WeChat, her face full of anxiety. A few minutes later, the maid of honor informed her that it was time to get ready. Willow made up her mind and, while hurrying to the venue, dialed Wong uncle's number. A minute later, she heard a booming voice on the other end. "Willow, aren't you getting married soon? Why are you calling me?" Hearing the endless sound of crashing waves, Willow's heart sank. She forced out a smile, barely managing. "Yes, that's actually why I'm calling. I wanted to ask if you and Auntie aren't coming to the wedding." "Sorry, Willow. Our family is on vacation. We won't be able to attend your wedding. I wish you and Makoto a happy marriage and many years of happiness." Although those were words of blessing, they didn't sound like blessings to Willow at all. She looked at the time on her phone and said something even she couldn't understand. "It's okay, you're by the sea, right? You can drive back now. You should still be able to make it to the wedding." There was a long silence on the other end, and then her dad's shocked voice came through. "Willow, we're in Barcelona. Didn't your parents tell you?" The mention of Barcelona made Willow freeze in place. Spain. What was the Wong family doing in Spain? What were her parents going to tell her? A series of questions bubbled up like rising water bubbles, completely occupying Willow's mind. She forgot about the wedding completely, turned around, and rushed back to the backstage, grabbing Lou father and Lou mother's arms with an urgency she had never shown before. "Dad, Mom, Wong uncle said they're in Spain. Didn't you tell them about my wedding today?" The couple exchanged confused glances. "Wong Dage, Wong uncle, moved to Spain a month ago. Didn't George tell you? I thought he already had." When she heard the word immigration, Willow's mind exploded. She never imagined the Wong family had immigrated. And a month ago, no less. Lou father and Lou mother didn't understand what was happening, but seeing Willow in a daze, they hurried her forward to the front hall, chattering incessantly. "The wedding is about to start. What are you zoning out for? Nothing is more important than the wedding right now. Let's talk about this later." "Okay." Willow's face went pale, and she couldn't focus on a word they were saying. She numbly lifted her phone and heard Wong uncle still calling her name. She grabbed onto the faint hope that had appeared. "Wong uncle, is George there? Can you pass the phone to him? I need to talk to him." After a moment of noise, she heard my voice, cold and indifferent. "If you have something to say, say it. Otherwise, hang up." At the same time, the voice of the MC echoed through the door. "Now, please welcome the bride." Willow ignored it all. In her world, there was only the voice on the phone. "I'm getting married today," I responded. "Congratulations. Is there anything else?" The icy tone of my voice sparked Willow's anger, and her voice rose a few decibels. "I said I'm getting married. Are you deaf?" The MC reminded the guests again, and Lou father and Lou mother were also urging her on. But Willow stood motionless, hearing my derisive laugh on the other end. "Why should I care? Willow, from now on, you walk your path, and I'll walk mine. We'll never have anything to do with each other again." Chapter 12. With a beep, the phone call was abruptly ended. All the guests in the hall turned to look at Willow with puzzled expressions. Lou father and Lou mother were as anxious as ants on a hot pan, continuously trying to persuade her. "The wedding has started. Willow, what are you doing? George and the others aren't coming to the wedding, and they won't be returning to the country. Why make things difficult for them? Hurry up and go in." "On the day they left for abroad, we called you dozens of times to come back for a farewell meal. You didn't answer any of them. What's the use of worrying now? Get married first, and later we can go to Spain together, and you can explain everything to Wong uncle." Each word felt like hot oil pouring over Willow's heart. The thought that the chances of meeting me again were virtually non-existent made her hands tremble. The MC reminded the guests for the third time, yet she still didn't move to enter. instead starting to redial my number. The off notification tone made her even more agitated, and she dialed again. This time, it wasn't the phone being off, but a cannot answer message, indicating that she had been blocked. Realizing this, the veins on her forehead bulged, and she furiously tapped out several question marks in WeChat. A series of message failed alerts and a full screen of red exclamation marks were like a sickle cutting off Willow's last bit of hope. She turned to leave, but at the exit, she ran into Makoto, who was dressed in a suit. He stared at her intently, his eyes filled with confusion and urgency. The MC has called for the third time. Willow, why aren't you going in? Faced with his question, Willow stumbled over her words. I have something I need to take care of. Can we postpone the wedding for a few days? Makoto's face instantly darkened. His eyes grew cold. Why postpone for no reason? Do you not want to marry me? Before Willow could speak, Lu's father jumped in to answer. It's not like that, Makoto. Willow just heard about George's immigration news, and she's having trouble accepting it. Give her a moment. She'll be fine. Upon hearing this, Makoto immediately understood what she was dealing with. The anger that had been building up inside him erupted, and he screamed, losing his composure. Are you going to postpone the wedding because of this? Willow, are you out of your mind? Let me tell you, if you take one step out of this hotel today, we're done. Chapter 13. It was only then that Willow regained some semblance of rationality and hurriedly tried to explain. Makoto, I just wanted to understand why he suddenly immigrated. Please give me some time. Makoto lost all control over his emotions. He grabbed Willow's arm, his grip tightening uncontrollably, his eyes reddening. You were the one who said you liked me for 8 years, and now you're the one trying to run away from the wedding. You say you only consider me a friend, yet you've slept with him for so many years. Willow, do you even have 1 ounce of truth in your words? In that instant, everyone fell silent. Lu's father and Lu's mother stared at their daughter in disbelief. Makoto's father, standing by, turned red with anger, glaring at Willow with disdain before leaving with his son. This time, no one stopped them. After Makoto released Willow, she collapsed to the ground, dizzy and disoriented, but it was as if she didn't feel the pain. She blankly watched the Ito family leave. She didn't utter a single word of pleading as they disappeared behind the door. Was it that she couldn't say anything, or that she didn't want to? She didn't know herself. The wedding, which had never even begun, came to a close. That night, the Ito family requested a full return of the dowry and declared that both families were to sever ties. The Lu family's living room, decorated with festive red wedding symbols, appeared to be full of joy but was suffocatingly silent. Willow sat alone on the sofa, staring absent-mindedly at the darkened Wang family villa across the street. Scenes from the past flashed through her mind, all of them involving me, without exception, when we were 5 or 6, holding hands while swinging in the garden, in our early teens when she was my model and I drew her likeness, and in adulthood, the repeated kisses and embraces. We had been intimate friends for 18 years, and in one night, became secret lovers. Lovers, such an ill-timed word, but Willow could only use this word to describe the past 5 years. I wasn't her boyfriend, yet everything we did far exceeded the boundaries of friendship. The feelings expressed carelessly in the bed, the words of love that were said just to amuse ourselves, had unknowingly etched themselves into her heart. When lies were told often enough, they started to feel real. It wasn't that she didn't realize it, she just hadn't noticed it before, but after losing it all, Willow finally understood her heart. She liked Makoto, but during the years he had been away, her feelings had slowly transformed into an obsession. The obsession of wanting something she couldn't have had blinded her to the truth, making her believe that she had always been consistent. Yet with time, she had unknowingly developed feelings for me. So, when I began to distance myself from her, she became angry. When she heard me admit my feelings, her heart trembled. When I left, she felt confused and lost. Losing me was far harder for her to accept than gaining Makoto. If she had to choose between the two, there would only be one answer. She wanted me to stay by her side. She couldn't imagine what life would be like without me. The good wine she couldn't share. The strange thoughts that no one would understand. The hundreds of times she tried to talk but no one could listen. The only person who understood her was now far across the ocean, and they had lost contact. Just the thought of it made Willow shiver. So, when she heard that the Ito family wanted to call off the engagement, her first reaction was to feel a sense of relief. Meanwhile, Lu's father and Lu's mother were still in shock, staring at her for a long time. They finally mustered the courage to ask. Makoto said, "You and George." The secret that had been hidden for so long was now exposed to the world. Willow didn't know how to face her parents. After a long silence, she nodded, as if that answered everything. Lu's father and Lu's mother felt a lack of oxygen, and they took deep breaths. Their gazes towards her became extremely complicated. When did this happen? Why didn't you tell us earlier? If you were in a relationship, why were you still planning to marry Makoto? Did George's decision to immigrate have anything to do with you? How could you be so careless? With our decades of friendship with the Wong family, if you two really loved each other, wouldn't we support you if you explained it to us? What you've done. Is it fair to George? Is it fair to your Uncle Wong and Aunt Wong? Willow's heart was a chaotic mess, and she didn't know how to answer them. The room fell silent again. She didn't know how long it had been, but eventually, she managed to make a decision. This is all my fault from the beginning. I'll go to Spain tomorrow and apologize to George. Lou father and Lou mother sighed heavily, their tone filled with helplessness. You've made this mistake, and George must have given up on you, which is why he left. Uncle Wong and Aunt Wong probably don't even know about this. What good will it do for you to go alone? We'll go with you, and we'll apologize properly together. Chapter 14. In the month since arriving in Spain, the Wong family completed all the formalities and moved into their new home. After nearly 2 months of hectic preparations for the immigration process, the whole family was exhausted. Once everything was settled, they planned a vacation to the beach. It was a perfect autumn day, the sky clear and the air fresh. I was lying in a beach chair, watching the waves form and break, gradually feeling my mood ease. He leisurely opened his phone and was immediately bombarded with WeChat messages. Big gossip. George, I heard Willow and Makoto's wedding was called off. Ha 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 ha. You missed the wedding. You should have seen Makoto's face, twisted with rage. It was such a shame you weren't there. I said a rushed marriage wouldn't last. Ha. They broke up on the wedding day. It's so funny. As I scrolled through the messages, I only felt bored. Just as I was about to put my phone down, my mom walked over with 2 cups of juice. She handed me one and sat down beside me, her tone light and cheerful. You've been sitting here motionless for so long. Are you actually here to vacation? I took a sip and lazily responded. Why not? Sitting here watching beautiful women. It's very relaxing. My mom seemed to agree with this. We chatted a little more, and when she couldn't persuade me to get into the water, she left, tossing her phone aside. I adjusted my sun hat and was about to apply more sunscreen when my mom's phone rang. I opened it and saw it was from Mrs. Liu. I hesitated for a few seconds before answering. We're in Madrid now. Are you at home? Madrid. We. My eyelids twitched, and a bad premonition rose in my chest. But, being an elder, I had to be polite and inquire. Mrs. Liu, what brings you to Spain? We're currently in Barcelona. As soon as Mrs. Liu heard my voice, her tone softened immediately, and there was an apologetic note in her voice. George, where in Barcelona are you? Could you send me your location? We'll come to see you. There's something we need to discuss. Though her words were vague, considering Willow and Makoto had called off their engagement, my intuition told me this had something to do with me. I thought for a moment before responding. Is there something going on? There was a brief pause on the other end, and then I heard a familiar, clear voice. It's me. I've broken off the engagement with Makoto. My parents know about us, and they want to talk with you and Uncle and Aunt Wong to apologize. Apologize? Hearing this word from Willow made me feel nothing but disdain. No need, I replied. Just those 3 words cut off Willow's remaining words. I heard her breath quicken, but I was unrelenting, speaking coldly. My relationship with you ended a month ago. We won't have any further contact. Tell your parents that I don't want to discuss this and I don't need an apology from them. In my heart, they will always be Mr. and Mrs. Liu, and nothing will change that, especially not you. These words were like blades, stabbing deep into Willow's heart, tearing it open with endless pain. But she knew better than anyone that the one to blame for all of this was herself. She had no one else to blame but herself, and now, she had to suffer the consequences. She couldn't bring herself to say any more harsh words. All she could do was lower her tone and beg. George, please don't be angry. There's something I can explain. Please give me another chance. Hearing her speak so humbly for the first time made me feel uncomfortable. Although I didn't know what kind of game Willow was playing this time, I no longer had any desire to participate. I decided to speak plainly to her. I don't have anything to say to you. All you need to do is tell your parents that we will no longer be in contact, and then go back to the county. Chapter 15. After being hung up on again, a deep sense of helplessness surged within Willow, and the light in her eyes dimmed considerably. Just by seeing her expression, Lou father and Lou mother immediately sensed that something was wrong, and their tone became more urgent. What did George say? To this day, Willow hadn't told her parents how badly things had escalated between me and her. So, those decisive and hurtful words, she couldn't bring herself to say. She could only speak vaguely. He doesn't want Uncle and Aunt Lou to know about this, so he doesn't want to meet and just wants us to go back. Upon hearing this, Lou father and Lou mother's hearts sank. When they first learned of this, they had hoped to smooth things over. If the 2 kids could set aside their grievances and renew their old relationship, it would be ideal. But before anything, the most important thing was to respect the children's feelings. But judging by my attitude, this possibility seemed increasingly unlikely. They both sighed and furrowed their brows. Since George doesn't want it, then forget it. But in the end, you've wronged him. You still need to apologize properly. You can't let this ruin the decades of friendship between the Wong and Lu families. Willow couldn't say a word, her heart heavy with sorrow. The three of them booked flights directly to Barcelona. After landing, Lu's father called my dad to explain the situation. That evening, the two families met at a Western restaurant by the coast. A month had passed since we last saw each other, and I had lost a little weight, though I looked good and in high spirits. For half an hour, aside from the initial greeting, I stayed quietly in the corner, not saying a word. During this time, our parents chatted casually about many things. When they heard about the broken engagement, both my parents were surprised and immediately asked why. Lu father, Lu mother, and Willow didn't know how to answer and could only give a vague explanation. Something came up, and Makoto didn't want to marry anymore, so the engagement was called off. Seeing them so awkward, my mom didn't press the matter further and changed the topic. Well, if it's over, it's over. Matters of the heart can't be forced. Right. Since you're not busy with the wedding, why not stay here in Spain a little longer? Just think of it as a vacation to clear your mind. Hearing this, I finally spoke up. Dad, Mom, didn't you promise Aunt that you would visit her in a few days? At this point, the meaning was clear. Lu father and Lu mother's faces flushed with awkwardness. Willow's eyes flashed with helplessness, and she quickly waved her hands. It's fine, Uncle and Aunt Lu. You can go ahead and enjoy yourselves. I'll take care of my parents, and we can meet again when you return. This was clearly an attempt to stay in Spain. A sense of displeasure stirred in me, and I looked at Willow with undeniable impatience. Is this really necessary? The whole private room fell into an eerie silence after these words. My parents didn't know why I was so upset today. They apologized while also reprimanding me. Sorry, George doesn't mean to be rude. He's just worried we won't enjoy ourselves while you're here. Please don't misunderstand. Yes, George quickly apologized to Mr. and Mrs. Lu. Since they've come all the way here, let's accompany them and have a good time. We can visit your aunt next month. That's not a problem. If this were just a vacation, I wouldn't have minded, but I knew full well they weren't here for sightseeing. In my mind, this was a matter between him and Willow, not something that should involve both families. I didn't want my parents to know about all this turmoil, which is why I had been trying so hard to stop it. But watching them come all the way here, persistently entangling themselves in this issue, stirred up all the resentment and frustration I'd been holding back for the past few months. I didn't care about keeping face anymore and spoke my mind directly. Dad, Mom, the one who needs to apologize isn't me, and it shouldn't be me. Chapter 16. Willow's face gradually turned pale as she heard my words. My parents, sensing the unusual tension, became more serious and looked at her intently. What's going on? Did you two have another argument? It's not an argument, just some misunderstandings, I think. I couldn't help but laugh in frustration at her attempt to shift the narrative. I put down my fork and knife, sat up straight, and stared at her with eyes as sharp as a blade. Misunderstanding? You call this a misunderstanding? Then why come all the way to Spain to talk about apologies? Seeing that I was getting angry, Lu father and Lu mother became anxious and couldn't help but intervene. George, it's all Willow's fault. She should apologize to you. My parents were even more confused by the situation, looking at each other with puzzled expressions. Our once peaceful life had been disrupted, and I no longer wanted to keep them in the dark. I decided to tell them everything clearly. Willow and I have been together since we were 18, although we never made our relationship public. In my heart, I thought we were in a romantic relationship. But when Makoto returned to the country, she told me that the one she had always liked was him, and she only regarded me as a friend. I didn't say anything. I chose to step aside for them. I even moved to Spain just to sever that relationship. I've given up so much. Willow, why do you have to keep clinging to this? My tone grew more intense, and my eyes began to redden. But this time, my tears were for myself, tears for the self who had loved and waited for so many years, who had been undervalued, misunderstood, abandoned, and ignored. Both Lu father and Lu mother, as well as my parents, were hearing the full story for the first time, and all four of them looked at Willow, wanting to know if this was the truth. But Willow kept her head lowered, responding only with silence. My parents' expression suddenly turned cold. Lu father and Lu mother were even more shocked and angry, glaring at her as they sternly questioned, "Is everything George said true? Willow, how could you do this?" Willow couldn't deny it. She felt as if something had tightly clenched her chest, and all she could manage to squeeze out were a few words from her throat. "Yes, it's my fault. I'm sorry, George. I'm sorry, Uncle and Aunt Wong." To realize that the child they had cherished for over 20 years was the one who had wronged their son was a blow too much for my parents to bear. A wave of uncontrollable anger surged within them, and they could no longer face the Lu family. My father slammed down his chopsticks and stood up, motioning for me to leave. Lu father and Lu mother quickly followed, repeatedly apologizing. Looking at his old friends, my father's disappointment was unmasked, and his tone was full of fury. If it were any other matter, we could discuss it, but this time, it involves George Jun Cheng. You don't need to say anything more. Whatever happens, happens. There's no room for negotiation. As the Wang family walked away, Willow's heart twisted in agony. Guilt and regret washed over her like a tidal wave, submerging her completely. It was the first time she truly realized that this time, she and I had reached an impasse. No matter how much she humbled herself or apologized, it was irreversible. He was no longer the little boy who could be easily appeased, and he would never give her a second chance. What was lost, irreparably. A broken mirror could never be restored, and spilled water could never be collected. Chapter 17. After returning to the hotel, the Wang family sat quietly in the living room for a long time, without speaking to each other. Surrounded by my family, my emotions slowly began to calm down. I knew my parents were very worried about me, so to reassure them, I ordered dinner and smiled, trying to comfort them. Mom, Dad, it's all over. I've really let it go. Don't look so sad. Okay. Seeing me so understanding, my parents patted my hand, their eyes filled with compassion. George, since you've let it go, Mom doesn't want to ask too much, so as not to bring up sad memories. But you have to tell me one thing. Did you suffer any mistreatment while you were with Willow? I paused for a moment, unsure how to answer. I thought back on the years with Willow and the events leading up to my departure from a city. Not knowing where to start, the moments of bitterness had mostly come from realizing that Willow had been playing with my feelings all along, leaving me feeling helpless and lost. And love, after all, is something hard to define, something that can't always be explained in black and white terms. I thought for a long time and finally realized that one thing truly needed closure. So, I told them about what had happened the day before I left. At the bar, after hearing the details, my dad slammed his fist on the table, and my mom looked extremely frightened. No matter what, they couldn't swallow this injustice, and immediately booked a flight back to China. Malicious harm is illegal. George, don't worry. Your mom and I won't let those who tried to hurt you get away with it. After resting for a night, the Wang family went straight to the police in a city the next day. They requested the bar's surveillance footage and then went to the police station to file a report. With the solid evidence in hand, the police quickly brought in all the suspects for questioning. At first, Makoto had no idea what had happened, but when he saw me at the police station, his face turned pale. Before the formal interrogation began, he quickly rushed to me, trying to take control of the situation. Aren't you already an immigrant? Why have you come back now? Of course, to settle accounts. You should know exactly what you did, right? A flash of panic crossed Makoto's face, but he tried to argue back. I didn't do anything. Why are you slandering me? I didn't have the energy to argue with him. Whether it's slander or not, the surveillance video will tell the truth. It's not up to you to decide the facts. Soon enough, Makoto recalled everything that had happened that night when he saw the clear footage. When he heard that he was about to be prosecuted, he completely panicked, abandoning his previous arrogance and began to apologize. Sorry, that night I let my jealousy get the better of me. My mind wasn't clear, and I made a mistake. But nothing happened to you, so please don't pursue it any further. Alright. Hearing this, I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. At the time, I had been hit by a series of setbacks and was in no condition to fight back. I was just eager to leave a city and hadn't had the time or energy to pursue the matter. What did he mean by saying, nothing happened? If it weren't for that ashtray, I might not have even made it out of the bar alive that night. Such a severe incident, and yet Makoto had no remorse, trying to brush it off lightly. There was no way I was going to let this slide. You can save that for the court. I will pursue this to the end. Those words struck Makoto like a hammer. The thought of being sentenced or even jailed, and having his bright future ruined, completely shattered him. He became a nervous wreck and turned to beg my father. Mr. Wang, please, for the sake of the old times, just let me off this once. You know how hard I've worked to get where I am today. Please, show me some mercy and give me one more chance. I beg you. Seeing his former proud student now begging at his feet, my father remained unmoved and simply said one thing to him. You've truly disappointed me. Chapter 18. Because the investigation would take some time, the Wang family stayed in a city. During this period, the Ito family made nearly daily attempts to contact various people to plead for mercy on Makoto's behalf, but they were all rejected. The Liu family quickly got wind of the news and returned. As soon as I stepped out of the police station, I saw Willow waiting outside. In the few days since we last met, she had become noticeably more haggard, her eyes bloodshot. When she saw me, a hint of guilt flashed across her face, and her voice was low. George. I didn't bother to respond, pretending not to see her as I began to walk away. Before I had even reached the stairs, Willow hurriedly blocked my path. Can we talk? I knew that I would run into her here because of the same investigation. Most likely, She was here to plead on Makoto's behalf. I had been hearing those same words for days, and I had no intention of giving her the opportunity to speak. I cut straight to the point. There's nothing to talk about. It's confirmed that Makoto incited a crime, and my parents and I are going to pursue this to the end. No one can change that. If you have time to beg me for mercy, you'd better spend it finding a good lawyer for Makoto. Maybe he'll get a lighter sentence. Willow was stunned. She had already seen the surveillance footage the police had shown her. She had never imagined that I wasn't lying that day. It really was Makoto who had orchestrated the entire thing to frame me. Thinking back on what she had done that night, she wanted to slap herself in the face. Why did she take out her anger on the victim? Why did she act impulsively and say all those hurtful things? Why couldn't she have been more patient, more composed, and figured out what really happened? A flood of self-loathing and regret overwhelmed Willow, leaving her troubled for a long time. So when she saw that I misunderstood her again, she panicked, hurriedly explaining, "It's not for Makoto." Then there's nothing to talk about. I turned and walked away, but when I was fastening my seatbelt in the car, I saw Willow standing in front of it, stubbornly refusing to move. Her usually carefree eyes were now full of pleading. "George, 15 minutes. Just give me 15 minutes. I stared at her, tapping my fingers on the steering wheel. I knew that with Willow's temperament, if I didn't agree today, she would block me all day long. I didn't want to waste any more time here, so I nodded. 10 minutes. Seeing that I had relented, Willow seemed to catch a glimmer of hope and breathed a sigh of relief. She walked to the passenger side and softly began to speak. "I was wrong to hurt you in the past, George. I shouldn't have trampled on your sincerity, and I shouldn't have said those hurtful things. I apologize to you. If you want to hit me or scold me, I'll accept it. Just please don't ignore me, okay? I always thought I loved Makoto, but it wasn't until the day of the wedding, when I heard you had immigrated, that I realized the most important person in my heart was still you. I couldn't lose you, so I broke off the engagement with Makoto. I couldn't tell anymore if she was being truthful or lying. Over the years, I had heard her speak countless sweet words, and I believed they were signs of love, but in the end, all of it just turned out to be me being foolish and deluding myself. If she really cared, if she truly loved me, would she have abandoned me when things got tough? Would she have denied me the chance to explain? Would she have pushed me away time and time again? I had been fooled once before, so this time, no matter what she said, I didn't take it to heart. I just treated it as a joke. So what? Chapter 19. The expected look of forgiveness and surprise did not appear on my face. The two words, casually spoken, immediately froze Willow's expression. She couldn't understand. She had poured out her heart to me, so why was I still indifferent? Staring at my cold face through the window, she felt as if her breath had become heavy and labored. But time waited for no one, and she could only continue laying bare her feelings, without holding anything back. "George, now the only person I love is you. Please give me another chance. I swear, I'll never make the same mistakes again. I'll make our relationship public to everyone, and treat you as I did before. If you're willing, we can get engaged right away. I will give you a clear future." Every word she spoke was full of sincerity, and she was incredibly firm. Seeing the genuine look on her face, I lowered my head, my mind finally clearing. If these words had come just 2 months ago, I would have believed her. But unfortunately, there is no if in this world, and I didn't want any future. "I don't believe you love me, and I don't believe there's any future for us." If that's all you wanted to say, then let me make it clear, there is no possibility between you and me. The last sliver of hope in Willow's heart was instantly severed. Her face darkened, her body trembling uncontrollably, and the veins on her clenched fists popped out. Her eyes, full of sorrow, locked onto mine, her voice thick with emotion. "Why, George? I've already realized my mistake. Why can't you forgive me? Have you forgotten that you once said you only wanted to be with me? Have you forgotten you promised you would never leave me?" Of course, I remembered those words. After all, I had once truly regarded Willow and this relationship as the most important and cherished things in my life. But unfortunately, all promises have an expiration date, confined to the time when I still loved her. And now, Willow and I were almost strangers. What need was there to talk about promises or emotions? So I didn't give her the chance to continue her act of repentance. "Then have you forgotten that you once said you only saw me as a friend? That there was no hope in our relationship? Have you forgotten that you said you would never like me? Have you forgotten that you said you never wanted to see me again? You remember everything, but you've conveniently forgotten these things, haven't you?" Willow's face slowly drained of color at the sound of my firm voice. The careless remarks and harsh words from back then now came back to haunt her, like a boomerang, striking her right in the heart. She shook her head repeatedly, trying to deny it all. "No, George, I didn't know back then that I liked you. That's why I said those things. Then did you ever think that, while treating our secret relationship as a topic to boast about with your girlfriends in the bar, it would lead to this?" One sentence cleared all the confusion in Willow's heart. She finally understood why I had confronted Makoto in the bar that night, and why after that night, things between us could never return to the way they were. I had overheard their conversation outside the private room. Upon realizing this, Willow's mind buzzed, and she felt the blood in her body flow in reverse. Her mind raced as she searched for a reason, any excuse to explain it all. Instinctively, she reached her hand inside the window, trying to grab my hand to stop me and buy some more time. But as soon as the time was up, I didn't hesitate, quickly rolling up the window. Her hand got caught, turning a dark purple as she stubbornly refused to withdraw it. Thin threads of blood seeped from the window, filling the air with the scent of blood. I furrowed my brow, glancing at her, then lowered the window just enough to push her limp hand out. Once the window was shut again, I started the car, leaving behind only one final sentence, cold and firm: keep your hypocritical, selfish love for Makoto. George, don't need it. Chapter 20. After receiving the confirmation from the prosecutor's office about the indictment, the Wang family breathed a sigh of relief. They entrusted all remaining matters to their lawyer and returned to Madrid. Although far from their homeland, the complexities of human relations and worries were also left behind, and I couldn't help but let out a long breath of relief. As the days passed, I gradually adapted to life here. When my parents asked about his plans for the future, he fed a piece of fruit to my mom and winked. Mom, I've been thinking about that too. I really want to continue my studies, but I also want to take a break and get a job to experience life in society. Do you have any suggestions? The wind was a bit strong in the garden, so my dad grabbed 2 blankets for my mom and me, smiling happily. In a few days, you'll turn 23. As for work, there will always be opportunities in the future. I still hope you can freely pursue the life you want. Whether it's continuing your studies or traveling the world while you're young, both are good options. My mom nodded in agreement, gently tapping his head. George, whatever you want to do, your dad and I support you. Take your time. There's no rush. Let's talk about your birthday first. You're another year older now. How do you want to celebrate this year? Birthday. I thought back to the 20+ birthdays I'd had, all of which were celebrated with the Liu family. This was the first birthday I was spending in Spain, and many strange and whimsical ideas popped into my mind. Since we just moved here, how about we host a pajama party and invite the neighbors? Or we could go to Iceland and visit Auntie. Does the Wang family have the northern lights during this time? But I kind of want to go surfing and skiing too. Seeing their son worrying about these happy little things, my parents finally felt at ease. They had waited almost 30 years to have this son, and raised him with love, hoping for his happiness. But due to their neglect, he had been deeply hurt by Willow, which caused them great worry for a long time. Now that they saw he was truly moving on, they were both happy and decided to fulfill all his wishes. Then let's have a birthday week celebration. On the first day, we'll have a party. On the second day, we'll go skiing. And on the third day, we'll go to Iceland. The family was very practical. Once the idea was settled, they immediately made a celebration plan. They bought a lot of flowers to decorate the garden and prepared a variety of food, sending out invitations to the neighbors. On the day of my birthday, when I woke up, I received birthday wishes from friends back in China. I thanked each one, scrolling to the bottom, where I saw messages from Mr. and Mrs. Liu. They both sent their wishes right at midnight, along with a red envelope. After hesitating for a few minutes, I decided to express my thanks. Once I sent the message, the screen showed that they were typing. Soon, I received a new message. George, my wife knows that you don't want to bring up the past, and she doesn't want to disturb your happiness on your special day. So she wishes you a very happy birthday, good health, and all the best. May you smile every day, and eat lots of cake. I knew that. Northwest matter how close the Wang and Liu families had once been. They could never return to the past after all that had happened. But I also understood that people shouldn't be generalized. All of this was because of Willow and me, and had nothing to do with our elders, though we would never cross paths again. Mr. and Mrs. Liu, who had always treated me like their godson, still held a place in my heart. So when I saw their heartfelt attempt at reconciliation, I felt a touch of emotion. I accepted the red envelope and sincerely expressed my gratitude and apologies to them. Mr. Liu, Mrs. Liu, thank you for your wishes. I have felt the care and affection you've shown me over the years. So no matter what happens between me and her, in my eyes, you will always be my favorite Mr. and Mrs. Liu. I also wish you both good health and all the best. Chapter 21. It had been so long since I'd had a carefree night, so at this pajama party, I drank several glasses of alcohol. After a wild party, my emotions were completely stirred up, and I was so excited that I felt like greeting even a little kitten I passed by. This mood lasted until the party ended. After I sent the last 2 neighbors, who were slightly drunk, back to their homes, I hummed a tune and headed back home. From quite a distance, I noticed a blurry figure standing by the door, holding a box. It was so late, my birthday had already ended. So why was someone still here? When I got closer and saw her face clearly, the smile on my face immediately faded, and my tone became cold. "What are you doing here?" When Willow saw the change in my expression, a flicker of unspoken pain passed through her eyes. Her voice sounded hoarse. "George, happy birthday." I didn't respond to her and continued walking toward the door, unlocking it, ready to go inside. Willow thought I hadn't heard her, so she called me again. "George, happy birthday. This is the gift I got for you." Her voice was so loud that my mom, who was in the living room, heard it. She called out from a distance, "Who is it? George, is that you coming back?" I didn't want my parents to know that Willow was here, so I quickly replied, "It's me. I'm just outside getting some fresh air. I'll be back in a bit." After saying that, I turned and glanced at Willow, giving a short and straightforward response. "I don't need it." The sparkle in Willow's eyes gradually faded, but she still forced a smile and continued to persuade me. "I know you don't want to see me, but I promised you that every year on your birthday, I would get you a gift. I don't want to break that promise. George, please just take it." As she spoke, she opened the box. When I saw the pair of dazzling, luxurious gemstone cufflinks inside, I fell silent for a long time. On my 16th birthday, my parents had also given me a pair of sapphire cufflinks. Willow had been surprised when she saw them and told me that her family had a pair of gemstone cufflinks, said to be a family heirloom, and they were very similar to these. To prove it, she had even gone back home to fetch them, proudly showing them to me. "Isn't this one for my family more beautiful than yours? But I'll tell you, my mom plans to leave them to my future husband, so just have a look." At that time, Willow always mentioned Makoto. I thought she was hinting to me that she didn't like me and that there was no chance for us to be together. The feelings I hadn't yet expressed were buried deep in my heart from that moment on. Even though we later shared a bed and she whispered many ambiguous things to me, I felt my heart flutter countless times. But I never dared to tell her that I had liked her for many years. I would always remember the casual smile on her face when she held up the necklace, and her tone of certainty. So when I saw this pair of cufflinks again, I felt a momentary sense of disorientation. There were memories of the past, but no more fluttering of the heart. I took a few steps back, distancing myself from Willow. My voice was clear and soft, yet firm. "Stop doing these meaningless things. Willow, we're long over. I won't accept these cufflinks, nor will I accept anything you give me in the future." After saying that, I turned around and walked toward home without stopping. A cold autumn wind blew, making Willow shiver, her body trembling slightly. She watched my figure grow more distant, feeling as if something was slowly being pulled away from her own body. The suppressed frustration and pain that had built up over time finally collapsed in that moment, spilling out uncontrollably. "What do you want me to do for you to forgive me? We've been together for over 20 years. Are you really going to sever ties with me completely? George, no matter how many harsh words you say, I will never give up. I will prove to you that I only have you in my heart, and that this life, I can't live without you." She yelled until her throat was hoarse. But I never turned back. Chapter 22. The next morning, the Wang family, with their luggage, were ready to head to the ski resort. I was relieved not to see Willow outside, and pushed my suitcase toward the car. Just as I placed my things in the trunk, I heard my dad call out, "What's this? George, did you leave some neighbor's birthday gift outside the door?" I turned around and saw the familiar box. Furrowing my brow slightly, I quickly walked over, took the box, handed it to the butler, and sent Lou's family address to him, asking him to ship it back to China later. My parents were even more curious and kept asking about the gift throughout the drive. Realizing I couldn't make up a lie, I had to come clean and also told them about the birthday wishes from Mr. and Mrs. Lou. The car fell into silence for a while. My dad nodded a few times. "Your mom and I have been discussing how we should interact with the Lou family after everything that happened. Though this is a matter between you younger ones. You're our son, and out of respect and reason, we should always stand by your side. So we've decided that if you don't want to have any further dealings with the Lou family, we'll respect your decision. After all, they're far away now, so it doesn't matter. But since you've made up your mind to just cut ties with Willow, we understand your thoughts. They are still your elders, and you're not holding any grudges against them. Nor are you angry at them for things that aren't their fault. You've made up your own mind, and your mother and I are pleased to see that." This was the first time after everything had been exposed that we sat down calmly and discussed it. Having my parents' support made a warm feeling spread in my heart. I leaned against my mom's shoulder and casually started talking about the upcoming trip, my tone becoming lighter. The whole family cheered up again and headed for the ski resort. Since I hadn't practiced in a long time, I fell several times as soon as I got on the slope. Though I slowly got the hang of it later, I still felt some pain in my legs as I descended. By the time we returned to the hotel, when I saw the bruised and swollen knees from the falls, I couldn't help but gasp. I immediately started looking for a nearby pharmacy. The nearest medical point was over 50 kilometers away. Looking at the long distance and the darkening sky outside, I became anxious. After thinking it over, I decided to wait until tomorrow to buy medicine and just use a couple of warm eggs tonight. After changing into a clean outfit, I hobbled to the door, preparing to head to the restaurant. The elevator stopped on my floor just then. I looked up at the sound and locked eyes with a familiar set of eyes. It was Willow again. The moment I saw her, my expression turned cold. "You're following me." It wasn't a question, but an accusation. Seeing that I seemed angry, Willow panicked and started stammering an explanation. "George, I was just a little worried about you." "Worried? My parents are right here with me. What's there to worry about? And why do you think you have the right to worry about me?" "Stop trying to beautify your criminal actions with such ambiguous words." Willow was left speechless. When she saw me stepping into the elevator, she quickly followed me in. "I'm sorry, George. Please don't be angry. I saw you get hurt at the ski resort, so I went out to buy medicine for you. You shouldn't take your health lightly." "Okay." Hearing those words from Willow made me laugh in disbelief. She had never once said a comforting word when I'd suffered so many injuries because of her. I still had the scar on my forehead from the car accident, a 10-centimeter long wound on my arm from a chandelier, and calluses on the back of my heels from being stepped on by over 100 pairs of shoes. But when it was her who had caused me so much pain, she never showed any concern, leaving me to suffer in silence. Now, after a minor injury with no bleeding, she was pretending to care, putting on an act of deep affection. So, I didn't even look at the bag she handed over. As soon as the elevator doors opened, I walked straight out. My complete disregard made Willow's heart ache, but she didn't want to give up. She followed me step by step. When she saw me taking a couple of eggs, she guessed my plan, and her voice became more urgent. "George, I bought the medicine. Why won't you accept my kindness? Do you really want to stay angry with me?" I let out a light laugh, my gaze firm and unyielding. "Angry? We never had any relationship in the first place. Why would I be angry with you? I simply don't want any interaction with you." Chapter 23. Willow's heart grew cold with every word I said. After watching me walk away, her hands dropped limply by her sides. Her exhausted eyes slowly reddened, tears beginning to well up. A deep sense of helplessness and despair surged within her, causing her breath to quicken. Willow sat alone in the corner for a long time. The restaurant had already closed when the waiter came to remind her. She finally snapped out of her daze and handed the bag over, asking the waiter for a favor. Although the warm eggs had helped reduce the swelling, they didn't ease the pain. I had been so focused on dealing with my leg that I didn't even have dinner. My parents had sent me a steak, and when they saw the wound on my leg, they were heartbroken. Just then, the waiter brought some towels, and they asked about the medication. Upon hearing that the hotel sold medicine for €100, they immediately bought a dose. Not long after, the waiter brought the medication up. Seeing the unopened box of medicine, I felt something was off. I had asked the housekeeper earlier, and she said the hotel didn't sell any medicine. Why? After 2 hours and a change of staff, did the story change? I was suspicious and wanted to ask more, but my dad had already started applying the medicine. "George, we've already paid for it. Don't worry about where it came from. Just take care of your injury." "Yeah, you've fallen so badly. Who knows if you'll be able to get up tomorrow. Maybe you should rest for 2 days before heading to Iceland." My concerns quickly faded with those few words. After a night's rest, my leg was still bruised, but the pain had subsided. The family continued on with the original plan to go to Iceland. Reuniting with my aunt after such a long time made me incredibly happy. Under the dazzling aurora, I raised my hand and made my 23rd birthday wish. I hope in the coming year, I can see more of the world, meet more interesting people, and that everyone around me stays healthy and safe. Hearing such standard wishes, my aunt chuckled and nudged me with her elbow, teasing softly, "Is that all? Don't you have a wish to meet a beautiful woman and have a passionate romance?" I knew my aunt was joking, but just as I was about to retort, I spotted a familiar figure. 10 meters away, Willow stood in the crowd, her gaze fixed on me. My aunt followed my line of sight, her eyes lighting up as she smiled. "Well, I think that beautiful lady looks pretty good. Why don't you go try your luck?" Willow immediately heard this and became visibly nervous, her expression tight with a mixture of tension and expectation. I quickly shifted my gaze away, my tone clearer than ever. "There's no possibility of that, Aunt." My aunt, unaware of the complicated history between us, looked at me with surprise. "You're so sure? The way you're talking, it sounds like you know her, like an ex you've cut ties with." The light teasing hit too close to home, but after everything we had been through and all the time that had passed, I truly had let go. So when talking about the past, my heart was completely at ease, and I didn't mind at all. It was never going to happen. "Aunt." Hearing me say this with a smile, Willow felt as if her heart had been torn apart. Tears welled up in her eyes. While everyone around her was taking pictures and making wishes, she stood alone. Apart from them, she looked up at the brilliant aurora in the sky, and memories she had long locked away flooded her mind. On her 18th birthday, she had made a wish to climb the highest mountain, dive into the deepest sea, skydiving from the highest peak, and to see the most romantic aurora. I had stood by her side, repeating every word she said. Now, we stood beneath the same aurora, but we were lost in the crowd, separated forever. Chapter 24. 3 days later, Willow returned to a city, alone. When she arrived home, the lights in the neighboring villa were on again. The butler informed her that the Wang family had sold all their assets in the country, and the new neighbors had just moved in a few days ago. Hearing this, Willow finally felt the irreversible finality of it all. She stayed up the entire night in her room, unable to sleep. The next morning, from her window, she saw the new neighbors dismantling the swing set in the garden, replacing the pink and white curtains with deep green ones, and taking down the shell wind chime that hung at the door and discarding it. Everything related to the Wang family and George was slowly disappearing from her world. She felt powerless to stop it, and could only numb herself with alcohol, drowning her sorrows. Her heart, riddled with wounds, began to hollow out, losing the ability to feel emotions. Love and hate, pain and regret, joy and hope, all of it drifted further away from her. Her room was filled with various discarded items, things she had gone next door to collect. Only during these moments did she feel a fleeting sense of clarity. The neighbor's 5-year-old child would follow Willow around every day, playing treasure hunts with her. The large tree in the yard had been chopped down, the rose-filled soil had been dug up, and the cartoon-painted stones had been smashed. Every time she saw something, Willow would recall many memories associated with it. The child kept asking her questions about the origins of these things. She stared blankly at them, 1,000 words rising to her lips, but they remained unspoken, until she unearthed a large wish bottle from a corner. Opening it, she found 100 love letters hidden inside, each with familiar handwriting on the covers. In an instant, Willow's eyes reddened. The curious child, unaware of the significance, eagerly tore open the topmost letter and began reading aloud. Willow, hello. By the time you read these letters, we should already be together, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't know these letters exist. We've known each other for 19 years, and in all those years, you probably didn't know that I've liked you for a long, long time, right? You might wonder why I didn't tell you earlier. Well, I knew the person you liked wasn't me. The way you looked at him, your eyes sparkled, so I buried my feelings deep inside. But now he's gone, and the person who's left by your side is me. Although you haven't mentioned his name again, I think you must have let go of him, which is why you're with me now. Even though you still don't want to make our relationship public, I can wait. I'll wait until the day you think it's right, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years. As long as you have me in your heart, I'll wait for you forever. Do you think I'm stupid? But since we can remember, we've always been there for each other. If life began with you, how I wish it would end with you too. Although I don't know what the future holds, the only thing I'm sure of is that as long as you have me in your heart, even just a little bit of care or affection, I'll wait for you to come back. Forever, forever. By the end of the letter, Willow was in tears. With trembling hands, she gathered the box of envelopes into her arms, stumbling as she got up and made her way to the airport. As if holding onto the last shred of hope, she couldn't wait to leave for a foreign land. Desperate to salvage the person she might have already lost. During the long flight, Willow could not stop reading those letters. The love hidden in the words felt like honey at times, and at other times, like poison. She cried at some parts, smiled at others, felt sadness, then joy. Two extreme emotions flowed through her, and her heart, once numb with despair, was reignited. This time, was it a fleeting moment of light before the complete fall into darkness, or was it a rebirth through fire, just before the dawn of a new day? Willow didn't know what awaited her at the end of this journey. All she could do was pray. She prayed that the youthful thoughts written by the 19-year-old version of herself would save her from this abyss, and give her one more chance to begin again. Just one chance. That's all. Chapter 25. Winter had passed, and spring returned with warmth. The Wang family received news from their lawyer in the country. After the first trial, the defendant's appeal, and a second trial, the facts of Makoto's criminal incitement were confirmed, and he was sentenced according to the law. The wrongdoers received their due punishment, which, for the victims, was undoubtedly the best form of consolation. And that day also happened to be my father's birthday. My mother cooked a big feast, and the three of us raised our glasses in celebration. Having been in Spain for almost half a year, I had already grown accustomed to life here, although there were still many inconveniences. Discovering interesting things during my explorations had its own joys. I made a lot of new friends and gradually found where my true interests lie. On this wonderful day, I was also happy to announce an important decision to my family. Dad, Mom, I've made up my mind. I'm going to form a band with some friends, and I'll be the guitarist. We've already written our first song, and we'll be performing next week. On behalf of the band, I sincerely invite you both to come see us. My father, who came from a musical family, was thrilled to hear about my decision to pursue music. Great, George. If you run into any difficulties with the creative process, just let me know. I'll support your dream wholeheartedly, and I'll be happy to help however I can. My mother also clapped, her eyes filled with satisfaction. Your father always hoped you'd follow in his footsteps, but we always thought you were still young, with endless possibilities ahead of you. We didn't want to constrain you with any expectations, so we never brought it up. Now that you've chosen this path on your own, go ahead and pursue it with confidence. Your father and I will always be your strongest support. Receiving my family's trust and support, I felt content. For the next period of time, I practiced diligently every day until the early hours in preparation for the performance. The day before the performance, I returned home early to ensure I'd be in good condition for the next day. In the evening, the sky was painted with vibrant clouds, and the gentle breeze was soothing. I got out of the car with my guitar on my back, and as I looked up, I unexpectedly saw someone I hadn't seen in a while. After 2 months, Willow had become even more haggard. She had lost weight, and her eye sockets were sunken, her face a dull gray as if overshadowed by a layer of clouds. At first, I didn't recognize her, and it wasn't until I heard her voice that I realized who it was. George, long time no see. How have you been? The moment she spoke, Willow realized her mistake. The face in front of her, full of life and smiling at the corners of the eyes, was no different from the one she had known when I was 18. I was doing well, unlike her, who seemed to be drowning in endless guilt and regret, unable to escape. And indeed, that was the case. When I looked at her, there was no longer the deliberate indifference and disregard I once felt. All that remained was a calm indifference. As if facing a stranger, I had truly let go of everything. Love, hate, grudges, grievances, all were things of the past. So, I merely glanced at her indifferently. I'm doing well. Seeing that I was about to leave, in a moment of desperation, Willow held up the letters she had kept all these years, putting them in front of my eyes. George, I found the letters you wrote to me when you were a teenager. Back then, you. Seeing the slightly yellowed pages, my long-forgotten memory stirred a little, but after a moment of surprise, I replied with just one sentence to make my stance clear. Back then was back then. Now is now. But you said that as long as I cared for you, even just a little, you would wait for me forever. Now, all I have in my heart is you. Please, give me another chance. By the end of her plea, Willow's voice was choked with emotion. I didn't say anything. I simply took all the letters from her. Then, under her disbelieving gaze, I personally tore up the letters, full of memories. All right, everything is cleared now. We have no connection anymore, so please don't disturb me again. I raised my hand, and the fragments of the letters fluttered in the air like snowflakes. In an instant, they vanished in the wind. I didn't look at her expression. I walked briskly toward the house. Once the door closed behind me, the dusk darkened, and the lights in the yard gradually lit up. The warm yellow light illuminated the drooping branches of the flowering camellia, swaying gently in the evening breeze. In the living room, soft piano music played, and hearing the cheerful rhythm, my steps became lighter. Home already? How's the preparation for tomorrow's performance going? Hearing my mother's gentle tone, I set my guitar down and walked over to my parents. With a lively tone, I responded, "Please look forward to it." I was looking forward to standing on a brand new stage, and embracing the bright future that awaited me.